But what would you say the main pros and cons of F&O are in general, with your experience both on the customer side as well as here on the consulting side?
Well, I think what could be considered a pro and a con is the high configurability of D365. There are just so many different ways the system can be configured in every conceivable module. Now, that's good because, as I said, I've seen it in vastly different industries and used well, but that configuration takes time, right? And takes time and costs money on the consultant side to get you through that journey of exactly how you're going to set up the system.
Yeah. 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 We do tell clients that a lot. I mean, it's interesting because on the software selection side of our business, when we're evaluating D365, that's one of the things that draws people to the product is how flexible it is and how open it is. But it's also a slippery slope. It seems like, just because you can configure the software doesn't always mean you should. And so, how do you differentiate between the things you should be or ought to be configuring versus the things that you're just doing it because you can, not because you should?
Yeah, exactly. And when you get into a D365 implementation and you hear the terms are out of the box, right? That can be a bit of a misnomer because it's out of the box if I spend 10 hours configuring everything you want it to do. But yes, that's out of the box. I don't have to crack the code open to do anything different, but I do need to set up many configurations to make it work for the whatever your business process that you're describing is.
Yeah. So in other words, you don't just turn it on and it just has the industry pre-configuration already done. It's just you have the option to create the configuration. Is that
That's right?
What you're saying?
That's right. It really doesn't push you towards a best practice. It allows for many different ways to get a singular process done.
Yeah. So when you talk about the flexibility of configuration, what about the flexibility of integration? Is that another strength that you're seeing just in terms of the Microsoft open architecture and that sort of thing? How have you seen that unfold or not, with our clients and your experience?
Well, the client that I was describing that's close to go live, we have 5 or 6 different ISVs that are a part of the project that are plugged into Microsoft Dynamics. And I think all but one of them is really a very native plugin to where you can't tell that you're leaving a Dynamics because it's just a new menu item that's in the Dynamics menu screen. So that's a really deep integration and works really well. As far as building, outside integrations that are API based or even EDI file based, we're doing some of that as well. And yes, Microsoft's highly capable of doing that, but again, because it's not pushing you one way is the only way to do it, like say an SAP might tend to do. There is a lot of work to get there, right, from the consultant side and the other software vendor who you might be bringing into the project.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It makes a ton of sense. And for those that don't know, ISV is what does it stand for? Independent Software Vendor? Is that what it stands for?
Yes, correct.
So an ISV, that's something that's worth noting here with Microsoft D365 is it is sort of a unique part of Microsoft's model with D365 is you have these third-party providers that use the D365 platform to tailor it or customize it for a certain industry or a certain function or a certain use case that maybe the standard software doesn't do well. And so in those cases, have you said there's 6 or 7 in this case? So 6 or 7 ISVs that are just creating different functions within D365, but they're sort of plugins or add-ons to the core product?
Correct. Like a payment processor is one. The out of the box, there's that word again, out of the box. Payment didn't work well enough for this particular client with multiple locations, multiple payment types, and multiple bank accounts. That Dynamics didn't like that. So we have a payment provider that's a part of the project, for example.
Interesting. How hard is it to find these ISVs in your experience? If you find a gap in the solution and you think, hey, is there an ISV out there that does whatever the function is. Is it hard to find, or how did this client find those 6 or 7 ISVs?
I think a combination, right? A combination of coming to me and having me do some research and plugging a gap for them, and even the main system integrator made some introductions or suggestions as well too.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and speaking of system integrators and VARs, I'm going to come back to that because I have a question about just the ecosystem of Microsoft and D365 and some of the potential pitfalls there. But so you talk about flexibility of configuration, of integration. What about what other advantages do you see or strengths do you see when you compare D365 to other technologies or solutions in the market? Are there other like functional or technical strengths that you see?
I think the integration to the Microsoft Office platform is really strong, and people are comfortable with it. Not only can you export to Excel, but you can actually open certain things in Excel, manipulate the data there if you want to do mass updates, and then publish that into Dynamics straight from Excel. You're not going to find that deep integration as much in other ERP systems.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.